Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence with psychiatrist Bernard David Beitman, MD. Dr. Beitman is the founder of the Coincidence Project. The project encourages people like you to tell each other coincidence stories. To learn more about Dr. Beitman's work, put Connecting with Coincidence in your web browser. You'll find his book, his Psychology Today blog, and the interviews from this podcast. And now your host, Bernard Beitman, MD.
Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence. I'm your host, Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD. If you wish to support us here at Connecting with Coincidence, please like and subscribe. Increasing our subscriber numbers increases our reach. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please write us one of your coincidence stories in the comments section. I will reply. During my first year as a psychiatric resident, a third-year resident dropped this puzzle on me. He said, "Bernie, your problems walk into your office," which I was able to translate that sometimes your patient's problems mirror your own problems. Well, Jungian therapist Yvonne Tarnas, who was a guest on this show a few months ago, wrote her PhD dissertation on this subject, packed with case illustrations and analysis. It's a real thing. It happens. The psychological mirroring also takes place outside of therapy if you decide to look for it. My friend Amalia was having trouble deciding whether or not to meet me somewhere sometime. I was eager to see her. She said that she has trouble deciding things with other people because she can't tell if she is responding to what they want or what she wants. Her mind is a good mirror of my mind as well. I have trouble distinguishing my trying to please someone versus my trying to do what I want to do, and I sometimes don't know where to draw the line. Perhaps our guest today has some experiences with this psychological mirroring, this coincidence form. Jess started her career in finance, where she learned about numbers, strategy, and leadership. So she then switched focus using a degree in psychology as her lever. Then she started on her own new career, facilitating and coaching others, which she now combines with writing and program directing. She's been coaching both individuals and teams since 2001. She has houses both in France, where we're talking to her now, and also in England. Her clients include multinationals in healthcare, professional services, banking, creative, education, manufacturing, publishing, and engineering industries, as well as the public and not-for-profit sectors. The people she coaches appreciate her approach, which is warm, challenging, and rooted in practicality. Using hard, soft, and intuitive information, she gets to the heart of complex and opaque professional issues. So whoever she engages will rapidly find answers. Welcome, Jessica Pryce-Jones, to Connecting with Coincidence.
Hi, Bernie. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Glad that I found you, and Christian was a great connection. Christian Bush was the guy who connected us. And this whole thing about connecting with each other is connecting with connecting. We got to connect and more, and we got to do stuff together. Now, you've had a lot of experiences with intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk today about what you mean by intuition. And as we discussed earlier, you and I, you may specialize somewhat in precognitive knowing. So why don't you tell us one of your favorite precognitive knowing stories as a lead into our discussion of intuition?
So I don't know whether you want the one that, well, I suddenly went, oh my God, this isn't what somebody says it is, or whether you want me to do, here's how I got out of a really tight situation. Which one do you prefer?
The tight situation.
Oh, okay, the tight situation. So I was going to just tell you before about how a ring which I had inherited, which was supposed to be this enormous, trophy ring, and it was going to get me out of a hole financially at some point in my life. And then when I was in that financial hole, I went to the bank where the ring was, and I knew that when the valuer came in, he was going to tell me it was worth nothing. And that's what he did. And I suddenly went, oh, it's not worth anything. And when he said, well, it's not worth anything, I said, I know. I already knew that beforehand.
How soon beforehand did you know it?
I was waiting for him like 10 minutes, 15 minutes before. And then I realized before I'd met him, he was going to tell me it was worth nothing. And someone had taken the ruby out and replaced it with a piece of glass.
Well,
That was okay.
that one is a little suspicious to me, because it was either going to be worth something or not. And usually we are able to be afraid of the worst thing and conjure that up as a possibility.
No,
So
I just had a certainty. So for me,
now that's the difference here.
yeah, it's absolute certainty.
That's the difference. And honing intuition requires being able to recognize when you get a sense of something that it's probably right. And that takes practice to be able to do it. And it takes practice.
I think you're right. Yeah. I think you're right, but I think I've been doing it all my life.
Yeah. And you've gotten confirmation of your being correct. So when you get a feeling thought, I'll call it a feeling thought, into your head, it's almost as good as like being able to look at me and knowing that I exist out here. It's that real to you.
It's that real to me. And it's just, I know that is the case. So it's knowing what I know without knowing how I know it is how I describe it.
That's the line. And it's the standard line, really, once you start listening to it, but it needs to be said often. Intuition is knowing something without knowing how you know it. I also have a variant I call human GPS, in which you know how you got to where you need to be, but you don't know how you got there.
And I think human GPS is really useful and has guided me a lot in my work. And so, all the work that I've ever done has always turned up because I've been in the right place at the right time and the right person has come along. But I haven't known that that's what it was going to be. So I had 2 huge breaks. And one was because an old boss of mine was passing through London and he said, come and have a coffee with me. And so I hung around to have a coffee. And then he said, hey, why don't you just stay and meet my next guest? And I said, sure. And I met a guy called Michael Hay. And Michael was teaching at London Business School. And I had just set myself up as this coach. And I didn't have a sniff of work. I mean, not a sniff of work. And I was running around saying, this is what I do. And I was feeling totally fraudulent underneath because, I don't have any clients. And and I met Michael, and Michael said, oh, I'm looking for someone like you. Could you come in and talk to me tomorrow about what you do and how you do it? And I went, sure. And I said, hey, listen, why don't I just do you a pilot? It won't cost you anything. And do you a pilot for some of your group? And he said, yeah, that'd be great. And literally a week later, I had 10 days work, and that was my first 10 days work. But that was at London Business School. And the minute that you work at London Business School, other people think you must be kosher. I didn't disabuse them of the fact. So, and I built a business on the back of that one meeting. I mean, if I hadn't said, sure, I'll hang about, and it's the same, I met a woman at a drinks party, which I nearly didn't go to. And then I thought about my friend Jane, who'd put it together and done all the shopping, the cooking, the prep. And I thought, I've got to go. And, I was toast, as we say. I was finished. I was at the end of my thread. And I turned up and I chatted for a long time to this woman who, I don't know if you've ever seen Gordon Ramsay, the kitchen program, the chef. She was making that program. So I talked to her a lot about what she did. And 3 days later, I got a call. Could I please get in touch with her? And I thought, oh, she wants some coaching, because we talked a lot about what I did and what she was looking for and her stress points in life. And it was for a screen test. And I had that completely kind of changed my career at that point too. And so, if I hadn't gone along, and I just think, how those two moments have been pivotal in my life and my interests. But I think a lot of people's life is like that. You see it with hindsight. You
do see it. You do see it in
GPS.
hindsight, and so it's easier to make a story up afterwards than before. And a lot of people do that, including the CEOs you talk with. They make up stories about how they made a decision and why they went this way, but it really didn't work out that way. It really didn't happen that way. It came out of like, who knows how. But we love making up stories. But here we get a chance to only in retrospect see what happened. We don't know what's going to happen. Intuitively, you might. And that's another question. But it's that moment when you say, I don't know if I want to go.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to do that. Okay, do I have the time? Okay. Those are the best times to go, I think, because I don't know why yet, but those appear to be the best times. We can do the research on it. There's a lot of research that can be done in all this that we still need to be thinking about. We need to raise the questions better. But something made you say yes.
Mm-hmm. And it felt like I can even recall the moment, because I was in the shower thinking, this is going to be a pull your energy up by its bootstraps moment. And I was going, am I prepared to do that? And I was, I got into the shower thinking no. And I came out of the shower going, yes. and so that was kind of my human GPS, if you like.
Well, it started you in that direction. It's like that shower is another place to get good ideas. It really is.
I think so.
I walk out of there I got to go write them down. Stuff that happens in the shower.
My daughter is chopping veggies, and she's a designer, and she only gets her good designs when she describes it as tuned in. And so tuned in, and when her best designs come like that, really, really quick. And she's a shoe designer, but she gets into that frame of mind often by chopping vegetables. So I can go to the kitchen and find like 100 pounds of chopped vegetables. Not that she's done anything with them, but I know she's getting into her space.
Last month, I just posted on the YouTube channel where you're going to be in about 3 weeks or so, maybe a month. It was a drummer.
Oh, yeah.
And he gets into the groove with drumming. And when he gets into the groove, he tends to produce images that then become real, that they happen. So I understood the groove better than I ever had before, just listening to him. He just got into the groove, and your daughter is getting into the groove. And what seems to happen with drumming, and she's drumming in her way, that we lose a sense of ourself, the usual way of feeling ourselves. And there's the default mode network of the brain that seems to be active during regular life, that gets diminished under different circumstances, that allows the new ideas to come in.
Yeah, and I know that feeling when I'm writing. And for me, it takes about half an hour, 45 minutes to get into the groove. And I do it by editing what I've written the day before, because I at the end of each day when I'm writing, I think I'm a genius. Here it is. It's all flowing out of me. And then the following day, I look at it and go, what idiot wrote this? But I edit, and it's the editing that puts me in the groove. And then I can write for 3 hours or more and it feels to me like I'm not writing it, it's writing me, is how I describe it. And it's effort free. And then I only know I've been doing it a long time because I stand up and my knees go, oh dear. So, and then I go, okay, yeah, okay, woo, 3 hours have gone past. So,
well, that's a good that's a good description. I imagine something like that happens in your consulting work too, where you find a groove when you're consulting with people.
absolutely. And I think a lot of my work is one-to-one. But actually, I noticed it with the team the other day, and I went, we've been working together for an hour and a half, and I didn't even know that it was kind of an hour and a half. Because I think for me, I get so tuned into what's happening in front of me that I lose sense of time, and I'm trying to feel. I can only describe it as feel the people. I'm trying to feel who they are and what's happening for them. And so when you talked about your problems walking into your office, I mean, yeah, I mean it's a parallel process, isn't it? You're immediately stuck in that parallel process together, and I remember one time I was really struggling, with what is leadership, and I'd spend a whole day thinking and fretting about what is leadership, and I went to meet. She was chief marketing officer for a bank. And I walked into the room and she's looking really distressed. And she goes, but what is leadership? And I go, oh no. So I said to her, we discussed it a bit, and I was asking her, she thought, and what happens if we call this thing cabbage instead of leadership? Let's give it a different name, because the name, you can get stuck in a name, can't you? And then I realized I was completely stuck also. So I said, come on, let's go for a walk. Because sometimes I think that movement gets you out of it, and being in a different place, getting a different perspective on it.
Oh, so, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's, so you're thinking about it, and she raises the question, the probability of consulting a leader about, as you, a leadership consultant, that's pretty good probability there that she's going to be wondering what leadership is, but not that she's going to articulate it to you. That's what makes it a little different. How about, could you recall any other examples of this mirroring with some of your work?
But I think it's also with colleagues.
Oh, please do colleagues too. Yeah.
I mean, when I've been going, what is my place in this with a colleague? They've also been struggling at the same time, and it's not because we haven't had clarity. It's and I think some of your best conflicts happen in that kind of way. I mean, and it creates a resolution in and of itself. So it's almost like you need the conflict between the two of you, because both of you are having the same issue for it to catalyze something else. And for me, it catalyzed me leaving the business that I'd founded.
Well, those are interesting stories, because to leave the business you founded. I had another guy on the show who was asked to leave the business he founded. It was a palace uprising or something, he called it, or something like that. But you decided to leave the business you founded.
Yeah, because I realized it was making me super unhappy, which was ironic, because at that moment I was big time into happiness at work. And I'm going, this is making me very unhappy.
At that moment, you were bringing happiness to other people's work. Is that what you meant?
Irony, huh?
We do irony here. That's good. We do irony. Yeah.
And I realized I needed to go to move on, and I like doing the doing. I was interested in doing the doing and exploring what's there to be explored, and running a business was fundamentally uninteresting to me.
I do understand that, and I currently do the same thing with the coincidence thing. I really like doing it, but I am being asked and feel the need to be a leader of the Coincidence Project. And I mean, the mission statement, vision statement, I mean, those are really useful, actually, now that I think about having done some of it and I'm talking with people. I really do see that. But then being the leader and deciding, and what kind of organizational structure are we going to have, LLC, nonprofit, something in between. it's not
Yeah.
it's not how this thing works, but it's still important decisions to make. But I could see how it gets caught up with money and politics of the people in the group and
Yeah.
all the other things that go with it, where you have to pay attention to that rather than get out there and do the stuff. But
Yeah. But you know, I remember when I realized, oh my goodness, this woman is sucking up to me because she wants something from me in my organization. Oh, this is so not what I'm about. And I'm so not about this political stuff. It's I wanted to have an organization where none of us had titles because but that created a whole bunch of competition as well. So, and then I experimented with telling everybody what everybody else earned, which just led to enormous conflict.
boy, you're a bad leader. Well,
Actually, I thought I was trying to be transparent and not hide things from people because I think that
the
hiding
trouble.
things from people leads to fundamental unhappiness.
Well, it's the whole problem of what does honesty mean? Uh, like being honest sometimes is really awful to somebody who's hearing it, and it's not It's not necessary either. I mean, I've
Yeah.
got people I can be honest with, but I need to have a relationship with them, and it has to have an outcome that I'm looking for, not just trying to be honest because I'm in a group and I got to say it. So what you're experimenting with, Jess, I am experimenting here. I want some egalitarianism within some kind of structure where
Yeah.
where the group helps the individual go out and do their thing, which is in our case coincidence ambassadoring. That's what I'm
Yes.
trying to have happen, and minimize the leadership thing, but play enough of a role in it to. I started the thing, so I got to have some idea of what's going to happen with it. I'm keeping it going. So there's a leadership role necessary.
Yeah.
But how do I do it in a way that is in the direction that you're talking about? Because there has to be this thing called money that gets involved.
Community of practice. I don't know. People. Yeah. I think it's to be worked out by a group. That when people come into one thing expecting, right, here you are as the leader and you trying to do something else, it becomes quite difficult to envisage and implement a different way of being. If people haven't created that way of been part of creating that way of being.
Right. Well,
And yet, yeah.
well,
So
you've seen the problem, and you may be part of it. You may be part of the problem too.
definitely part of the problem.
You got to be part of the problem to make it
I'm
happen.
definitely I was not part of the solution.
Well, we got a problem in this world, which is the sixth mass extinction. And what I'm hoping that we get to is an elevation of human consciousness and awareness so that we can work together in a way that is workable as at least a subset of human beings to help do something about this terrible thing that we're all doing to ourselves and our planet. But that's another story. That's the bottom underlying mission I've got with all this stuff. But if you've got some more of these mirror coincidences, I'd like to be able to hear them, and we'll get to intuition with that.
Mirror coincidences. I'm just I don't know. I've been drawn to tell you the story about which isn't totally.
Let's follow your intuition. Let's follow your intuition.
About how when I was in South Africa. I went to South Africa. It was 2001, and I'd gone there to do some diving and riding, and I'd never taken any time out by myself. And I had 3 young kids at that point, and my husband had a demanding job, and I really needed just a week away. And we decided that we were going to go to South Africa for a holiday, so I just went a week earlier. And when I was there, I was driving back from where I'd been riding, which I hadn't been before. And it was this beautiful place called the Thousand Hills, and it's all these wonderful rolling hills, as it sounds, all green and luscious. and there wasn't really GPS at that time, and I kind of knew where I had to go, but I took a diversion because it was going to be quicker. And I got to, the sun was going down, it was the end of the day, and I suddenly realized that I was in a township and I needed to cross the river, but the bridge had been washed away. And it was getting dark, and I realized, okay, there were about 20 people around me here, and this feels a little bit uncomfortable. It feels a bit hostile. And I needed to turn the car around. And I thought, well, I can't go back the way I've come because that's not going to lead me to where I want to be. So I turned the car around and I went down a road, which I can still see now. It was the first road on my left, thinking, well, it might take me along the river to another bridge. And I was feeling super uncomfortable. And I said to myself, oh, what I need now, I need an elderly couple who are hitchhiking and going to where my hotel is, and they're going to ask to be dropped off like 100 yards before my hotel. And that's what flashed through my mind. And I drove around the bend, and there was the elderly couple who was hitchhiking, who were going exactly the direction that where my hotel was. They said they knew it, and they wanted to be dropped off 100 yards before. So they jumped into the car, and there I was.
And there was the bridge to cross.
And there was the bridge to cross, and they took me over the bridge. They showed me where I needed to go.
And would you have been able to find the bridge on your own going down that dark road?
Absolutely no way.
No way.
I mean, no way. There's no way I would have.
You picked up some human GPS, right there, different use of the term, and you anticipate that you got that precise with an elderly couple. That's pretty funny. That you were able to pull that one out somehow. And
yes,
how do you see that intuitive process happening? What was that?
So it's not exactly a mirror image, but it's, they had a need and I had a need.
Yeah.
And we were on that kind of same, we were linked at that moment in time. We came together at that moment in time to serve each other's needs. So it's not exactly a mirror, but it's a kind of reflection.
Oh, it is. I mean, it is mirror-like. But the difference here is somehow that you thought of the elderly couple beforehand. I mean, it would have been a mirror enough just to pick them up, but to have the image of them beforehand, that makes this even more interesting to me. That popped.
Yes, but I wanted an elderly couple because I knew that they would be safe.
Yeah.
So, a virile 20-year-old wouldn't have felt safe to me. I wouldn't have wanted to pick one person up like that. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. So I was going, okay, elderly couple. And
in a magical world, and I'm reading a book called The Magicians now. In a magical world, your thought can help produce that elderly couple.
Yes, and so that led me to then think, am I making all of this up? To what extent are we sitting in a mirage? So I've gone down that route too, and going, no, we're not in a mirage. But I do believe in these invisible links that draw people to your life, and that you recognize them at that moment. So I don't know. I met my husband when I was 21, and I was a student, and he walked into the room, and I saw him. It was a busy room. It was a kitchen, and there must have been 20 of us in it. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and there was a connection. And although I had a boyfriend at the time, I said to a really good friend, "I met the man I'm going to marry this weekend, and I'm telling you, so when I marry him, I have some proof that I've met the man I'm going to marry." And we exchanged one conversation. That was it.
That helps you rely on intuition, or whatever you call it. What is intuition? What is intuition to you, Jess?
So I think for me, intuition is, and I'm not alone in saying this. It's knowing what you know, but without knowing how you know it. You absolutely fundamentally know it, like you know your left hand is there. And for me, when I know what I know, it's almost it's beyond gut. It's almost it's a complete sense of rightness. I just know that thing, like 2 + 2, like my left hand, my right hand. You know, I fundamentally know it. And if you said to me you're wrong, I would go, I'm not. You know, how much you want to put on it? So I would put money on it.
And how do you use that in your consulting work?
So for me, because precognition is one of the things that that I do, I quite often just take a little moment to tune in and go, okay, I'm meeting somebody new. What is it that I need to know about this person? So for example, I was coaching someone the other day and I thought, okay, I'm just going to tune into this person. What's going on for her? And it was, in fact, it was just before I'd signed a book contract half an hour before. And all I was getting was books. And I went, no, get out your own way. You're in your way at the moment. You know, I could just see volumes and volumes of books in bookshelves for her. And anyway, so we get on a Zoom call, and she's talking about her, you know, what's going on for her. And I said, just humor me here, but when I was thinking about you, I could just see lots and lots of books, and you know, what's in that? Is there anything in that? And she said, just a minute, and she took her camera and she just tipped her camera up, and books everywhere. And then she said she had books in suitcases, she had books in it, she had a garage that was full of books, she had books everywhere. And that her way of withdrawing from the world was into books. And so we I wasn't a million miles off, if you see what I mean. So that's how I've used it in my work. It's just like, okay, what's happening for this person? What is it that I need to know for them? How might that inform me?
What I get from your book story is that it helped you engage the woman in your relationship with her by suggesting you knew something about her.
Yes. Now, it's not. I wouldn't do that for everybody and tell everybody, you know, what was going on. But the thing that she had brought to me, it made it applicable. So without saying anything about the subject matter of what she brought to me.
So it was applicable. That's why you said it. But sometimes you pick up stuff that you don't say to them. Just like a good psychotherapist, you got to like know who you're talking with. One of my favorite lines is, "What do you think I think of you?"
I wouldn't do that as a coach.
I don't say that.
But you do.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
To be able to think about what the other person thinks of you.
Yes, and transference and all the rest of it.
And all the rest. So it's very psychotherapy-like what you're doing. At least that's the way I think about it, especially the one-on-one and even in groups, but a lot of one-on-one. Yeah. So when you walk in, you pick up, or even before, you pick up something about that person. And these are somewhat like mirrors. I mean, it's not, but sometimes it's going to be about you too. That's about that person. You've got to have run into people who have wanted to quit being the leader of their organization. You've got to have run into that already. That you might have run into such a person while you were thinking about quitting yours would seem like a likely possibility.
Totally. I remember the first time I did it was a CEO of a bank who'd wanted to see me. And I walked in and I was, he was CEO of a bank. I was a little bit nervous, going, oh, I wonder what we're going to get here. Why did he ask for me? And he'd seen me do some talk, and he loathed his job, absolutely couldn't bear it. and he was stuck in it because he'd got himself a lifestyle that went along with being CEO of a bank. And then, how do you get yourself out of that lifestyle? Not so easy. But he said that every time he saw his chairman, the only thing that he had on the tip of his tongue was, "I hate this and I want to leave." And he couldn't, it was very hard for him to admit that to himself. So anyway, that's why he wanted to talk to me.
Was that perhaps around the time you were thinking about leaving your job, your boss?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. But he came to my mind a lot when when I was beginning to.
He was before.
He was before. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was before.
Well.
But that was the first time somebody said, "I've got to see you because I hate my job."
So that allowed you perhaps to be more tuned in a little bit to your dislike of your leadership role. No?
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
But I never meant to be a leader.
But sometimes there's two old sayings, are not so old. The best leaders are those who don't want to be the leader, and the worst leaders are those who don't want to be a leader. And I'm guessing because those are two popular things, it's 50-50. You just can't tell. Yeah, so you couldn't. Those are okay. This mirror idea. I'm just looking to confirm what I'm thinking about. I'm just hearing some of what you're talking about. But when we talk about your intuition, which is knowing something without knowing, being certain you know something without knowing how you know it, that is a step up in the intuitive in thinking about intuition.
I think there's something that's always kind of knocking on my shoulder, going, "Hang on, is this confirmation bias?" And being super careful, and that's why sometimes I sit and wait on things, because okay, let's go out and buy a red Ford, and okay, suddenly there are red Fords everywhere. So that's your confirmation bias speaking.
Right.
But for me, there's something deep-seated emotionally and physically which isn't there when it's just confirmation bias. But I think you can get yourself caught in a knot by going, and I have definitely done that to myself. Is this confirmation bias that I'm going with, or is this really an intuition?
Well, we're going to talk about what intuition is, but how did you get to know the difference between the two, confirmation bias and, yeah, this is right? How did you get to that place?
Well, I think I've been having these events, these certainties, since I was 4. And the very first time, I can remember I was a 4-year-old little girl, and I was jumping over a fence, and my mother was going, "Jump, jump, jump." I was going, "I don't want to. I know I'm going to hurt myself, and I know there's going to be blood everywhere." And I can even remember that. Anyway, so I jumped, and as I jumped, I stuck my tongue out and I bit it really hard as I hit the ground. And I lost a few teeth, and I had to eat baby food for a week or 2 after that. And I remember really clearly eating baby food again, and the blood all down my front. So that was so I had quite a good lesson early on, which has stayed with me all my life.
And the lesson was?
The lesson was pay attention. And I think we're very intuitive around 3 things. I think it's our worries, our work, and our well-being. So our worries, our work, and our well-being. And so I'm particularly tuned into my well-being. I've saved my life a couple of times, more than 3 times that I actively know about. So, our work we do all the time. So, is it our? I do think, of course, there's expertise behind that. And you train your expertise to just know that that's the thing that you're looking at because you've seen it before.
That's the thing that I hope your book on was working with intuition.
It's intuition at work.
With intuition at work. Okay, that's
Yeah.
why I like the double meaning. Intuition
Yeah.
at work, both of them. What I'd like to be able to learn more of for myself and other people to learn is that it can be trained
Yes.
to pick it up and to make the distinction. I'm going to, as a devil's advocate on this one with your tongue, to me, it's possible to think that a 4-year-old girl might want to show her mother that her mother's wrong.
Ooh, even at 4.
Oh,
I'm not
definitely
sure.
at 4.
Yeah. Well, it's possible. Of course, all things are possible. You know, I'm remembering my 4-year-old self, but it was just the first time. I mean,
That's
and
it.
I've had,
Yeah. Keep going. It's just the
so
first time.
it was the first time that I understood that I had some knowledge that I could or couldn't act on. And I wanted my mother to lift me down. I asked her to lift me down. And my mum was one of those kind of tough, she still is, pre-war. If you're not ill, get out of bed and do it. Yeah, and shut up and don't complain. I mean, she walks her 10,000 steps every day, and she still skis, and she's 83.
Oh gosh,
So, so she's
tough.
she's tough, and had wanted her to lift me down. So,
and you wouldn't be her daughter if she had to do that, because she
no,
wanted to get you to be tough too.
yes,
And so
absolutely.
I'm still going to go a little bit with, I want to show
Sure.
my mother she's wrong, but it's still, you learned at age 4
Mhm.
when you got a feeling, even whatever the reason might be or the motivation, it was a body feeling in
It was a
you.
body feeling.
And
Yeah.
that's the distinction you're making between I'm seeing a bunch of red cars of a certain make where it's more intellectual. This is more physical, where you can
Yes.
feel it at an emotional and a physical level. And that's the way you market as
Yes.
something that's to be believed.
That's the way I mark it, as something to be believed. And so, I was thinking that the next time I had a younger sister who died of leukemia when I was 10. And when my parents told us that she was ill, I just knew I would not see her again. I just knew. And I said to my mum, is she going to die? And my mum, she just said, my mother had said, she's ill, we're going to London, we're taking her to hospital. And I just said, she's going to die. And I just knew she would, that I wouldn't see her again. And that was exactly the case.
Yeah, and I get a little bit of a feeling of what you felt in your body when you tell me
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel it.
You feel it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
in your body. It's emotional,
Yeah.
but it's a physical something or other. That's the way you know. Now let's talk about the way I divide up intuition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
These
Love
days.
to.
One form of intuition comes from the maybe 10,000 hour thing, where you do something for 10,000 hours, like the Beatles playing in
Yes.
Germany, and learning how to be a band together by doing it over and over again, or learning, as I am doing, about coincidences, which I've been studying for a long time. So I learn a lot about coincidences, so I know a lot about them. So when something comes up about coincidences, I can feel something that's right, but it's based on an accumulation of past experiences, kind of like a computer doing Bayesian collection of information, just collecting it and changing each time with new information and getting more accurate about what's happening right now. Then there is I don't know where it came from one, where it wells up, which includes a lot of parapsychological things, including precognition. And I'm interested in separating the two, because I do get ideas that sometimes come from experience. And I'm doing psychotherapy, when you're doing consulting, I've seen this before, and I don't remember where, but there it comes, versus this is a unique, separate, not coming from past experience so much.
And that's where it's quite interesting. You know, I've to make life difficult. I've worked with a group, and we do intuitions for each other. So we don't say what we're intuiting about. We ask people either to think of what it is or to write down what their question is, and then we do blind readings, and for each other, and then give each other feedback about are you right or are you not right, because you've got zero information to go on. So then if you've got zero information, it's quite interesting. So for example, yesterday we
Wait, but can the group see each other?
On Zoom only.
On Zoom only. There's so
Yes.
much information on Zoom I'm able to pick up than I had realized could be possible. So
Okay,
there's
let me
a
give you
little
an
bit.
example.
There's a
So
little
I've
bit.
been thinking for the past few days. I'm not the kind of person who soaks my feet, but I've just been thinking I really want to soak my feet for a couple of days. I can't tell you why. I've even put a bucket out to put my feet in. So 5 of us were on a call yesterday, and we were just going around the group doing readings for the group. And you get 2 minutes a person, and 2 people of the 4 who were reading for me said, Jess, I really feel you need to soak your feet. So, so, you know, where do they get that from?
Where do we get
I
that
can't
from?
tell you, because I have not articulated it till yesterday. I had not articulated it. I mean, even to my husband, I just think, oh, I'll get the bucket, put my feet in it. So there we go. Now, how do you pick that up? I think that's practice. And you can do it. You can learn to do that kind of stuff yourself quite easily. So, you know,
Why don't you tell us how to do it yourself?
so I think it's just taking the small stuff. So, for example, yesterday I went out to the shops and I came back a slightly different way, which means me stopping at a crossroads. Going, okay, let's just tune in here. What's happening? Okay, I think that when I get to the crossroads, I'm going to stop, and there's going to be a white car coming to the right. Boom! There's a white car coming to the right. So you can just set yourself little things like that. And I keep a book and I write them down so that I can look at my hit rate. And then you can go, yeah, I was completely wrong on that. And that's fine. And then you can then start to, it's because quite often what we do is we discount this stuff. So it's the discounting. Oh, yes, or maybe I did or didn't think that, because when it happens after, did I really have that thought? Whereas if you write it down, you've got it there. And so I'm a great believer in writing it down. And you know, who's gonna your first email in the morning? Who's that going to be from? You walk into a meeting room. Who's going to be the next person into the meeting room? You know, tune into the meeting. You know, what's going to happen in that meeting? Who might say what? So you can start to anticipate these things, and it doesn't need to be difficult or big. It's this small stuff to train yourself and to trust your internal self, because that's the hardest piece in this, is trusting yourself, that you're not off on a wacky one. So there we go. That's how I would begin to do it.
I was watching you tell us about that and trying to pick up what I can about you and
Sure.
how you are operating. So I was like scanning you as you were
Scan. Yeah.
as you were anticipating the white car coming from the right or left, I forget. That I was just seeing how you did that, and what I thought you doing was loosening your boundaries with your environment. That you were allowing yourself to almost amoeba-like, or not amoeba-like, but somehow jelly-like move out your consciousness beyond your body, beyond your sticking it in your head, and allowing yourself to go into what I call our mental atmosphere, which we all have our minds in. And this in this mental atmosphere is information and energy, often they're together, and that we can tune into that under certain circumstances. And you are doing it consciously on relatively small things that are about to happen, and being able to then confirm that you can let yourself go out there and not be so caught up in your own self and your own selfness, and you're learning to do it consciously, that you're able to then get out there and you get hits, not all the time, but
Yeah.
you get the hits.
You do, and quite often I'll also visualize that we are all connected. So I might be seeing you as a little point in my head. So I've got all these little points of light going on, and so that I'm just kind of like traveling to your point of light.
Yeah. That's good. That's the
Yeah.
sort of thing I'm looking for there.
Yeah, and then as you say, just like, okay, physically, what's going on? Yeah. So right now I've got something in my stomach for you. Are you hungry?
I was trying to get to that. No, I mean, I do eat around this time,
Okay.
and I can feel my stomach. You can call
Okay.
my attention to my stomach,
Okay.
but my mind hasn't been called to my
Okay.
stomach until you just brought that up. But the picture of the points of light, and that you can move toward them, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So we have a bit of a mirror today, because I told you the vision that I got to yesterday and then today for the Coincidence Project illuminate our invisible connections. And that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's what you just described. So we have an alpha and omega, where I described the vision and you described the
Practice.
vision. The practice of it, of how to make it happen. That's I appreciate your pragmatism, because I like it too. You just like help solidify that idea in my mind. It's so much more active than what we've been doing, is coincidence use around the world or something like that. I mean, that's what we're after, but how to use it in a way that's a short, catchy phrase: illuminate invisible connections. And that's what you do with, that's what you just described.
Yes. Yeah.
That's nice. That's
Yeah.
nice. That's nice.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It works for me anyway.
Well, it works for us right now. I mean, and how did it happen that you and I are talking the day I figured out, with the help of a friend of mine who read this phrase I'd written before, but elevated to the vision? How did it happen that you and I are talking today, and you can help me confirm my belief that that's a better vision statement, as now consulting to this leader, as you have just done, than the one I had before, which I kind of thought before, but it's nice to get a confirmation.
Yes.
That's a mind mirror. You just did that with me, or somehow we did it together or something.
We did it together. We did it together, definitely.
Which is the only way to think about doing it. There's two people involved.
Yeah.
There's two people involved. And it's a lot of people forget with coincidence, oh, it's all about me. No, there are two people involved.
Yes, although sometimes not, because I remember going to find a house in Belgium, and maybe this is my human GPS thing that you referred to.
It is.
You
took a wrong turn, and there it was.
No, I didn't. I didn't take a wrong turn. I did not take a wrong turn. I was going, oh, stuff it. This isn't working. I've been driving around for 3 hours. I haven't found what I want. And in Belgium, they, at that point, used to put these signs in the window saying "Tahua," and "Tahua" means for hire. And so you could rent the house. I was driving around, and I knew kind of where I wanted to be, but there was nothing there. And I thought, oh, I'm turning around and going home. And I had just turned the car around, and I had this really strong, no, you're doing the wrong thing. Turn the car back, go left, take the left-hand turn, go to the end of the street, and it will be there on your left. It was almost like I was hearing instructions.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that one, too, because you have now described the two interesting forms of the non-practiced one, a practice based on past history. You've done the visual one with the points of light, and now you've done the voice talking to you one. I've done that too. I've tested it out where I decided to see if I could have the voice tell me when to go see somebody. I wanted to see if I could get to see her when she came out of her house. Only that period of time she came out. I wasn't going to knock on the door, and I did that twice. And I had a voice advising me about when to do it. Winston Churchill had voices talking to him, and it's important for us to know that they are helpful and you're not crazy.
My psychologist immediately, when I was saying to her, no, I had this voice telling me, she's going, okay, these voices. No, keep calm, it's fine.
That's part of what the mission of the Coincidence Project is to be able to alert people that it ain't necessarily so, that these are like hints about how we can make things expansively better. And you're part of that process. And we're going to have to stop, Jess, as we've had a good time here. And I just, I'm really happy about a lot of things with this, but seeing how you expand yourself, seeing your vision, confirming about the voices, and illuminate invisible connections, which you do and coincidences do in general. So thank you very much for being with us, Jess.
It's been a blast. Thank you for inviting me.
This psychosphere is our mental atmosphere, like a hologram of cosmic consciousness.